Hi, I'm Zipporah Brown.
And I'm Wynn Duffy.
And I am Jessica Siebenaller. And the issue that we have to cover is the lack of social work resources and services in libraries. So why is this an issue? Well, the library is often found in a central location in both small towns and large cities, that there are many different people who are coming through the doors with different issues, questions, concerns, whatever it might be. And it is the library's job to support its community and be a safe space that provides information and resources to all of those who are coming in. And unfortunately, there is a common misconception that librarians have all of the answers. And while librarians are very smart, they don't know everything. And then there's also just the stigma surrounding seeking help, but everyone's welcome in the library where things are kept anonymous and confidential. So a patron can come in and speak with a social worker and get that help they need and feel more comfortable doing so they don't feel like they're being judged by others. And then kind of stemming off of this, people just have that right to be treated equally and have access to these. And then a lot of the time, librarians genuinely do want to help, but they just simply can't because they don't have the training or the experience to do so. But on the other hand, there are some librarians who don't really view this as being in their job duties or even just within their field in general. So as of right now, there's only a little less than 100 libraries in the United States that actually have social workers as part of their team. But those who do have them have found them to be very beneficial. And this has been a very hot topic recently, so I'm expecting this number to increase in the upcoming years. And then we also acknowledge that not all libraries have the funds or even the space to put a social worker in their unit. And then real quick, I just want to talk a little bit about what my library is doing. So something that we are planning on doing in the next year is we're going to move the campus food pantry, counseling services, and career services into our building. We're already home to the Military Student Success Center, which is where our military students can come in and get some extra help with their homework, or even just kind of readjusting to everyday life after being deployed. We also have some technology instruction for our adult learners or just those students who tend to struggle a little bit more with technology, because we all know technology can be pretty complicated sometimes. So one of the actions we decided to take was implementing social workers in libraries, and this can be done in several different ways. One way is through finding a social work grant. And what this would do is it would allow us to put a social worker in a library, but that library would not be responsible for paying them. We could also hire social work interns or just have a social worker position in the library in general. And this could be either full-time or part-time, meaning they're there every day or just certain set days. And for smaller towns, maybe we could have a social worker who travels from town to town. And then also just having these social work services, and it doesn't have to specifically be a social worker present in the building, could be helpful as well. And then having guest speakers who are professionals in the social work field come in and talk about whatever issues and provide assistance to the community members in what they're needing. And then just having some LibGuides on our library web pages could be very beneficial, just providing some additional resources and services that are welcome both locally and nationally. And then I believe that this action falls under the care ethics lens because social workers focus on relationships by listening and responding to patrons regarding various concerns and situations. And in order to do this, empathy is key. And social workers are also able to provide interest, generosity, and concern for patrons in ways that librarians are not trained to or experienced with. And lastly, they can focus on connecting interpersonal duties to societal duties, such as food security, transportation access, fair wages, housing support, and environmental protection, just to name a few. So there's quite a few benefits of having social workers in libraries, and a couple of them are that it can take some of the pressure off of librarians because they're better able to appropriately respond to the more difficult questions that librarians might not feel comfortable with or even capable of answering. They're also able to serve an underrepresented population in the community, and they're able to identify these people who are needing that additional help. And then in order to do that, they can advocate for more library resources that maybe the library doesn't have yet or that they'd like to further build upon. And then just some other things that they can offer. They can offer one-on-one or group consultations, providing things such as mental health assistance, job hunting assistance, financial assistance, and substance abuse assistance. They can also do programming and workshops, and that also allows the library to have a partnership with organizations outside of the library, which Zipporah will talk about shortly.
The library has had partnerships for many, many years, starting with the World Wide Web. By installing computers in public libraries, this became a great equalizer by allowing for people to fill out government documents to starting up their Facebook pages for the first time. In natural disaster situations, FEMA and other government agencies house their units inside libraries, oftentimes. And in case of a global pandemic or COVID, libraries had an outpouring of being vaccine centers, testing sites, community hotspots, and mobile book centers. Finally, libraries became a community outreach center by having a community boardroom that can bring access to public issues and being an all-around common room for everyone, which is exactly what my hometown of Hastings, Nebraska did. My hometown of Hastings, Nebraska partnered up with nonprofit organizations, churches, and corporations in Hastings to help combat some issues that they were facing, one of which was food insecurity. Food insecurity is a big issue in Hastings, particularly because of the large poverty rate. Because of this, they partnered with Catholic Social Services, a nonprofit, and Open Table to provide sack lunches for anyone who wanted one. Free of charge, no questions asked. You get a sack lunch, you can eat it in the library, outside, wherever you want. And people are more than willing to take advantage of this and are very happy to. Second, tax filing season is a drudge for everyone, but particularly if you're someone who's moved around a lot. So the library partnered up with volunteers from AARP and the United Way to provide free of charge tax filing for any and all patrons who wanted tax filing to be filed. And trust me, a lot of people take advantage of this because filing your taxes is hard. So, in addition to this, Hastings Public Library has reached out to many nonprofit organizations and churches and corporations and asked them, hey, is there anything that you can do for a patron with fill in blank here with any sort of need? Really, they've asked. And in turn, churches have asked. So we were looking into this certain area of a Bible study or of a reading group, and we wanted to put together this collection of books or of information. Could you possibly help us out with this? In turn, the library provides them with a connection. This two-way connection between the libraries and nonprofit organizations and the community as a whole has provided a deep partnership and therefore made a safe place in the library for, number one, the homeless population, which unfortunately is a rather large population of the Hastings community because of the high poverty rate and people with mental health issues in Hastings. People who are homeless or people who are in need stop by the library for a spot, a respite, a need of home. And the librarians are more than willing to provide them with referrals to one of their organizations that they've teamed up with for a referral. In my interview with them, the one thing that they wish for and they want more than ever is more funding, because often what they're lacking is a transportation or a ride to that referral that they want. So let's look at some more partnerships that some other libraries have done. The New York Public Library and Thrive New York City has partnered up together, which Thrive NYC is through the mayor's office, to provide for workshops to increase mental health information and support, in which these workshops include anything from a depression support group to helping with opioid overdose or anything of the sort. Because of this, that knowledge and information helped provide patrons with a community. In turn, the library got that information and found out they needed way more resources, and they put those resources towards their patrons. So, third, Central Texas, through the St. David Foundation, has put forth Libraries for Health, in which they are a health organization that puts first mental health in people. Because of this, it has helped Central Texans who, in large, they found had issues with mental health. And so by putting forth these mental health communities in libraries, it allowed for people to seek treatment where they needed it, in a library. That's a safe place. Third, in the Hartford Public Library, Cigna, a well-known insurance company, teamed up to found ArtLink that increased awareness around mental health. Increasing awareness around this mental health by doing pottery, baking, art, all sorts of painting, crafts, and everything else through therapy, which sounds incredibly amazing and fun, and should be something that maybe we should all look into. Fourth, the Avon Free Public Library had an overwhelmingly, let's say, older population. So it decided to look into programs for its population, which included 16 programs on memory loss, depression, grief, and its most popular, on hoarding behaviors. So this older community joined together and found a community in odd places, but found a community and bonded together. Finally, the Ronan Public Library started their free virtual sessions with licensed therapists on stress and mental health during the COVID-19 pandemic, and by far their patrons came swarming at this opportunity. And the library did not expect how many patrons wanted to take advantage of this. So because of this, the library decided that maybe this should be a more permanent thing. So the library has made this a permanent action and continues it. So let's look through the lenses and what these partnerships ethically make sense of. First and foremost, all patrons have unalienable rights. These unalienable rights include access to information and knowledge. By providing these library partnerships, we allow for our patrons to have access to basic rights, which may include housing, food, and water, mental health needs that everyone requires. Second, justice. Benefits and burdens of society should be spread evenly among society. The library should not be the only sole provider for providing mental health in a community. A social work hub should not be the only one providing all the information. Maybe the library and the social work hub should team up together and provide a partnership, allowing for those burdens and benefits to be fair and equal, and to provide a better common good. Because in all, that's what we're looking for. In a library partnership, it's working for the common good together and the growth of society. Because we do this out of care. We do this because we're doing this out of our compassion. We're trying to meet others with empathy. Because everyone deserves a place that is safe, no matter what. So, what we need to do, besides providing partnerships, is making sure that our librarians have training for that. And Wynn can talk more about that next.
As we've heard, public libraries are much more than just books. They are often viewed as safe spaces for people of all ages, from all levels of society, to briefly escape from all the craziness and noises of everyday living. This escape to the library becomes a type of self-care where a person can make non-judgmental decisions when selecting resources, attending programs, or maybe just simply looking for a quiet space. For many, the library may be a physical shelter, a classroom, a safe haven, a resource hub, or even a lifeline. The library is truly a sanctuary in times of stress. Library staff encounter a wide variety of behaviors from patrons on a daily basis, and most staff do not have the training needed to help deal appropriately with the many issues that the patrons bring with them. Since most librarians and staff don't usually come with a social work degree, it's extremely important and necessary for staff members to receive regular training about how to appropriately respond to individuals dealing with social issues and how to handle situations that may arise. Most of the people who come in of all ages to visit our libraries have experienced some type of trauma in their lifetime. The most commonly referenced definition of trauma is from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which states individual trauma results from an event, series of events, or set of circumstances that is experienced by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life-threatening, and that has lasting adverse effects on the individual's functioning and mental, physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well-being. Traumas could come from mental or physical illness, poverty, child abuse, neglect, bullying, addictions, domestic violence, sexual assault, homelessness, and many, many more. Because so many individuals regularly deal with so many issues in their lives, having a social worker on staff to provide the extra time, resources and skills needed to help them deal with a wide variety of issues is the ultimate ideal for all libraries. However, many public libraries do not have the capabilities or financial resources to add a social worker to their staff. And then there is the concern that most library staff are not trained in how to interact with patrons or other staff members in ways to not say or do something that could unintentionally re-traumatize them. It is critical to educate staff on how to appropriately respond to individuals experiencing a wide range of needs or issues. And they may be coming to the library to look for assistance to work through those issues. Becoming trauma informed is a way to train staff to begin to realize how widespread trauma is, how to recognize the signs and symptoms of trauma, and how to put the knowledge into practice in the attempt to not do any further harm. When becoming a trauma-informed library, administrators and staff need to be prepared to make a change in their culture to emphasize understanding, respecting, and appropriately responding to the effects of trauma. Regular trainings need to be provided for all staff, such as maybe having a social worker or other mental health professional come in and provide in-person training for the staff and teaching them how to recognize and deal appropriately with different situations with patrons and with each other. Another way is to subscribe to or provide access to webinars and other online and in-person trainings to learn how to recognize and deal with patrons in need. Some examples of this could include de-escalation and conflict training, safety, mental health first aid, even naloxone administration training. And it's important to encourage further reading and research by all staff to continue to learn more about trauma, its effects, and how to deal with it. And reach out to the community and connect with community organizations that provide social services, mental health care, domestic violence, food banks, homeless shelters, all in order to build a collaborative work to help staff become more informed about these community services that are provided so they can share this information with patrons. And encourage opportunities for staff for debriefing and self-care and wellness activities, as they sometimes need help dealing with the stresses of feeling helpless from dealing with others who are experiencing trauma. And in addition to providing learning opportunities for staff, you can provide trauma-informed learning opportunities for patrons as well, such as providing trauma-sensitive programming that allows for opportunities to learn coping skills that can help them, such by programs such as Tai Chi, yoga, or mindfulness meditation. And take the time to make a sensory-friendly space. Try to provide a quiet area in the library, and if that's not possible, maybe consider providing noise-canceling headphones or earplugs. You could also include information in program publicity that can help people make informed choices about whether or not to attend the program. For example, you could include, this program will include loud music and strobe lights. And of course, adding books and materials to your collection regarding mental health issues, recovering from trauma, mindfulness practices, coping skills, addictions, and physical illnesses. And rural areas in particular have a general lack of adequate mental health care and other service facilities, which makes it even more of a necessity that library staff obtain the tools needed to deal calmly and appropriately with the behaviors of library patrons. Caring for others in a compassionate and caring manner could fall under the justice ethics lens, in that it promotes giving each person fair or equal treatment. For example, access to shelter, clothing, food, health care, or financial assistance. But for the most part, it also fits under the care ethics lens. Care ethics involves relationships, listening to individuals and responding to their circumstances in helpful and empathetic ways. It focuses more on the whole person, their feelings and concerns. Library staff deal with ethical dilemmas daily when serving people, and having a social worker on staff or having staff trained to deal with social issues, the library becomes even more of a valuable resource to the community that goes beyond just books. Libraries are guided by the American Library Association's core values, and providing social workers in libraries and having staff trained in how to deal with ethical issues and being able to offer some assistance to individuals dealing with social issues particularly applies to the core values of access, education and lifelong learning, the public good, service, and social responsibility. As librarians, we also strive to apply the ALA's Code of Professional Ethics to our library work and operations. The need to provide social work resources and services in libraries particularly applies to at least 3 of the Code of Professional Ethics, including by working to provide the highest level of services to all, by treating coworkers and colleagues with respect, and advocating for conditions that safeguard the rights and welfare of all employees of our institutions, and striving for excellence in the professions through maintaining our own knowledge and skills and encouraging the professional development of coworkers. Libraries can no longer ignore the need of patrons to access mental health resources within the library, which can include having a social worker in the building, providing training for library staff, and partnering with community organizations for outreach opportunities.